Yungang Grottoes, situated on the cliffs of Wuzhoushan Mountain, 15 kilometers west of Datong City of China's Shanxi province, got its name Yungang from the highest peak of Wuzhou Mountain. In 460 CE, Yungang Grottoes were chiseled under the decree of Emperor Wenchang, fifth monarch of North Wei region. The grottos were hewn for praying the nation to be a thriving and prosperous country. It's well known to the world for its grand and delicate carvings and colorful painted Buddhist statues. The religion of Buddhism was introduced into China through the Silk Road from India over 2,000 years ago. The North Wei region was founded by a nomadic tribe ethnic Xianbei of North China, and the capital was made in Pingchang, namely today's Datong. The excavation of Yungang Grottoes lasted for some 70 years with its length 1 kilometer. The caves was designated cold, numbered over 200, and the major grottos amounts to 45. The Yungang Grottoes are one of the biggest ancient grotto groups with the highest artistic achievement. According to the differences of chronological order of the excavation and the artistic style, Yungang Grottoes are divided into 3 parts, which are of early period, intermediate period, and later period respectively. The 5 caves, number 16 to number 20, belong to early period work, excavated in the period from 460 AD to 464 AD. The main Buddhist figures in these 5 caves measure over 10 meters height with imposing manner. The most peculiar part is the image of the 5 main Buddha were blended with the facial features of the earliest 5 emperors of North Wei. The purpose of constructing Buddhist sculptures and emperors commemorating figures were met at the same time. The Sakyamuni's figure in number 16 cave symbolizes Tuoba Jun Emperor Wenchang, who led the excavation of the grottos. Sculpture of his image is handsome and natural. The main Buddha of number 18 cave was the image of Tuoba Tao, Emperor Taiwu. In the early years, Emperor Taiwu worshipped the Buddhist religion, but after being slandered by some ministers, he began to slaughter monks and burn down monasteries, and made the first incident of destroying Buddhism beings in the history. Emperor Taiwu, in his senior ages, felt remorseful somehow and reflected on his own behavior. Therefore, after his decease, the Buddha statue presenting his image was sculpted with his expression of being penitent. In Yungang Grottoes, a Buddhist kingdom of grandeur and magnificence, the giant Buddha of number 20 cave is the most typical work of all. It has become a symbol of Yungang Grottoes. A famous scholar once put, if you only have 15 minutes to visit the Yungang Grottoes, then just a visit of number 20 cave will do. The imposing and grand Buddhist statue of Sakyamuni measures 14 meters in height. The facial part is plump with kind countenance. Both ears extend to the shoulders, and its shoulders wide and strong. The sculpture was built to commemorate the state founder of North Wei region, Emperor Tuoba Gui. The sculptor carved out a remarkably vivid spiritual world in a very concise manner. Tuoba Gui used to be an emperor conquering and killing his enemies, riding his horse. But what touches the visitors the most is not the stateliness of monarch ruling over the whole empire, but the peace and the holiness of its inner world under the elegant and handsome appearance. The early sculptures of Yungang Grottoes, with its elegant and elaborate way of expressing Chinese culture, inherited Western region sentiments of simplicity and honesty. Many Buddhist statues had rather wide foreheads, high noses, big eyes, and slim lips, bearing facial features of foreign region race, embodying the characteristics of Buddhism as a foreign culture. The grottos were the places for monks worshipped the Buddha and cultivated themselves according to the Buddhist doctrine. When the Yungang Grottoes were excavated then, temples were built as well. After the passage of 1,500 years, and the temples were gone forever. In front of the main grotto, there used to be a multi-story wooden attics built close to the cliff, and it is also called grotto roof. The existing two grotto roofs were rebuilt some 100 years ago. Number 1 to number 15 caves were chiseled from 465 AD to 494 AD. It's a sculpture work of intermediate period of Yungang Grottoes, created by elaborate sculpting efforts. Its decoration were magnificent and well known to the world, indicating an artistic style of rich complexity and grand luxury of North Wei period. The sitting figure of Sakyamuni in number 5 cave, with its height 17 meters, is the tallest Buddha image in Yungang Grottoes. Its knee could accommodate 120 people. One characteristic of the Chinese Buddha sculpture is a formation of grouping grottos. This tall Buddha became a visual focus of the coming visitors. On the right side is a future life Buddha Maitreya. On its left is a past life Buddha Kasyapa. On the peak of the two grotto gate opposite to the giant Buddha stands 8 small Buddha of 1 meter tall respectively, which was arranged into 2 layers, setting off the loftiness and grandeur of the main Buddha, and formed an overall effect of orderly arrangement and mutual complements. It is number 6 cave that represented the highest level of North Wei grotto art. This grotto is grand in scale and famous for its elaborate design, and called the first great grotto of Yungang. The surface of the number 6 cave is rectangular in shape. Behind its back chamber there stands a pagoda pillar, and the tower height measured 15 meters tall, with division of 2 layers. The whole cave is splendid and of grandeur. On the pagoda pillar and 4 sides of the walls are carved full of Buddhism images, such as Buddhist statues, Bodhisattva, Arhat, and Fei Tian Fairy or Lucky Bird, Divine Beasts, and flowers, etc. The place that bears the most artificial influence is the central pagoda pillar and the story of Sakyamuni sculpted on the 4 sides of the wall, illustrating in a vivid manner about a series of stories about Sakyamuni's birth, entering into Buddhism religion, exorcising the devil, asking for directions, and then becoming an enlightened Buddha. The apparels of the Buddhist sculptures in the number 6 cave varied greatly compared to the others. The clothes were the loose robe dress of South China's scholar bureaucrat Stratton, and more traces of Chinese localized Buddhism could be found on the apparels. Number 9 to number 13 cave is another group of typical intermediate period work because it was color painted over 100 years ago, and the color was magnificent and splendid. It was called Wu Hua Dong, or 5 Brilliance Cave. These are a group of double grotto mainly composed of relief sculpture. In a relatively dark stone cave, the artisans then used the window-like opening over the upper layer of the grottos, and with a change of location of sun over the sky, the relief sculpture, illuminated under the changing light from the side, has a really clear profile in the shadow of the light, as if it were true in life. Number 12 cave is also called Four Light Dong or Buddha Sound Cave. It is majestic and magnificent, hardly seen among the grottos. On the top of the caves, images of female singers and dancers were sculpted, holding musical instruments as vertical bamboo flute, lute, horizontal flute, waist-binding drums, etc. Their posture and routines were attractive and lovely. The theme subject of the grotto was to celebrate the grand musical dance ceremony on Sakyamuni attaining enlightenment. staying in number 12 cave, visitors' eyes were filled with flying clothes and skirts, and ears all of melodious music. Artisans invested their feelings of the secular life and passion of the Buddhist kingdom wholly into the creation of the work, and miraculously transformed these cold and harsh stones into lively flying souls, casting splendid light on these creations. The Maitreya Bodhisattva statue in number 13 cave, with a height of about 13 meters. Under the right arm of the giant Buddha there's a tiny Li Shi, powerful being. Li Shi holds the huge palm of the giant Buddha, with a composed expression, though being tiny in stature, but mighty in force. The comparison of these two, one huge and one small, offered a visual impact of the prodigious size of the giant Buddha. In 494 AD, Emperor Xiaowen of North Wei moved the capital from Datong to the southern city of Luoyang. A huge scale of excavation event was brought to an end, but scattered chiseling continued though for another 30 years, and their caves numbered 21 to 45, which were of later period in Yungang Grottoes. Datong is a famous heat shelter resort. After the capital was transferred, Emperor Xiaowen noted that many nobles were reminiscent of the old capital, so he issued a special permission for them to go back to Datong in the summer to shelter from hot weather. Therefore, a culture of Central Plain was brought to the Yungang Grottoes. Although the grottos of later period was relatively small in scale, while the figure was thin and beautifully crafted, the decorative patterns of clothes were overlapped, and their bearing was elegant. These figures had grown loose with influence of foreign cultures, and strong localized Chinese flavor and humanized feelings could be witnessed. Among the grottos group that spans 1 kilometer in Yungang Grottoes, there were totally over 50,000 Buddhist statues. The big one measures some dozen meters, and the small one only several centimeters. Their designs vary and present a splendid sight. The styles of the sculpting figure realize the historical ever-fusion of creative elements in Yungang Grottoes. Yungang Grottoes lively recorded the historical trace of the localization and secularization process of Indian Buddhist art in China. The nationality of Xianbei of North Wei, who chiseled these grottos, were called by some historians as coming with no shadow and going without trace, an untraceable ethnic. It quietly rose to the history stage and ruled over north of China for over 200 years, and quietly it declined and fell. But it's fortunate that this long bygone nationality, with the rocks over the cliff, left eternal relic trace in the endless flow of history for itself.